mean, I could go ahead and start showing you the results of the priority survey. So you guys, I sent it to you earlier this afternoon. And it would have been, it's a PowerPoint presentation that it's called Priorities. And I could talk to you about what's on it while we wait for Pat, if that's what you want to, if you want to do that while we wait. That seem reasonable?
Sounds great.
I mean,
Sounds good.
why not? Okay, what happened to it? Whiteboard? Hold on, it disappeared.
Well, we just had a minute. I just wanted to say, hey, everybody. I'm Darlene Nazarmi, and I haven't been able to make most of these meeting times, but I'm a grad student, so crazy schedule. But I can make one, so really nice to meet you.
Well, yeah, maybe the afternoon schedule time is better for everybody. I don't know. That's, you know, a thing. Okay, I'm having trouble making this share. Oh, okay. Okay, here it is. Got everyone to vote, or basically to give me a prioritized list of what they thought we should do with the committee. The different subjects, we need to set some priorities. Actually, fairly quickly. So just as a brief note, I'll come back to the program notes at the end. But essentially the safety of election, then career planning, then poll worker training and recruitment. Funding was next, but it had one have to do it vote from you all. So we can think about that. We can talk about what we need to do if we want to do that. Training for board members or onboarding staff came up next. And then responsibility or ethics was the last thing. So this would be really hard to see. So I apologize. So hopefully you all have the PowerPoint yourself and you can take a look through this. What I decided to do with this presentation was to also give some ideas about who might take these ideas and actually write a draft of what they maybe think we should do. And so the final report might have to go something like this, with first evidence, right? And so we're going to have some evidence. So for example, Princeton, if you look at the, sorry, I didn't mean to go through the slides so quickly, but Tom Baker, who's with the Bridging Divides Initiative for North Carolina, it's Princeton's effort, is going to give a talk sometime in April. So he'll give us some evidence about the lack of safety or political violence that might have been happening in North Carolina. So that could be one piece of evidence. The other piece of evidence might come from Jason Roberts' presentation. And I think there's also some good stuff that the National League of Cities put out about why this matters. And so these are all stored on a Google Drive. So we should be able to get any of these documents whenever we want to. For policy recommendations, all of these different reports here gave a variety of policy recommendations that I think that we should, you know, write up, have someone write up or volunteer to write up. And I think then we could deliberate from the various policy interventions. These policy interventions run the gauntlet from discussing what kinds of state laws that we maybe should pass to try and keep our election workers safe. Privacy protections in terms of things online, so maybe we don't find the people who commit political violence couldn't find their homes. CISA actually had a list of recommendations for things that the local election officials should have. And I talked to Kristen Mavromatis in Mecklenburg County when I first saw this, and she said they have them. And I don't know if Sarah, if you have them or not, but there are various recommendations for kind of safety and security kinds of things that locals might want to do. And I assume that they pushed it out. Karen Bell must have pushed it out to everybody because, you know, CISA has it. It's the federal government's security agency under Homeland Security. So there's a lot of different things. So that can be things that we put in our report, though. Like, should the state legislature consider this policy? We can decide which of these that we want to put in the report. So recommending state laws to protect them, examining other recommendations. So I have a student that's working on a paper right now about political violence, especially of election workers. We can ask her to write an op-ed. But I also think we could work with the Civic Education Committee to push out some information about that this is a real problem and that we need to keep our eyes open. We need to protect the Sarahs of the world. I don't know if you experienced any problems, but I know there were a lot that did, Sarah. So.
No, luckily I have been able to not experience any of the things. And there was an article I read just today that kind of highlighted some of the things that other election directors have experienced in the past several years.
If it would be great if you could find it and maybe send
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think I saw it on maybe Election Line or something. I'll go find the link and put it in the chat because it might even still be open in my browser because I'm one of those.
So does someone want to volunteer to write up this safety stuff? Kind of using the resources or whatever I have to get this. Don't all chime in at once. Leslie, I have other ideas for you, so you don't need to chime in. As you probably have seen. All right, well, I'll let you stew on it because my computer's going to die here in a bit. So hopefully we can find a volunteer. So the next thing was then career planning. So what I think that we have to sort of put out there that there's been a lot of turnover. The Brennan Center, so Jason Roberts had some information about how much turnover there's been among election directors in North Carolina. The Brennan Center for Justice, if you follow this link, also had a report on it. And the Bipartisan Policy Center should be issuing a report really soon about turnover. They have a really great study that they've done that's looked at turnover from the year 2000 all the way up to 2020. They engaged a couple of academics, a guy from UCLA and his graduate student have been working on it. So I don't know if, you know, Sarah has any particular ideas, but the only thing I could think of was trying to think about how we could, these are just ideas I didn't put out there, and maybe you guys have some ideas as well. But I wonder, you know, for career planning, maybe there's the Arizona internship. So Arizona had a similar commission that was more, that was actually state government officials. And their recommendation was to do a fellowship or internship program. If you click on this link, what you will find is it's the announcement of the Secretary of State's fellowship or internship program. So my thinking on that is, you know, that this could be like a multi-pronged effort to try to find people who could move into these roles at some point in time, or be someone that Sarah could hire. And one thing that I talked to some Kansas election officials. And Sarah can tell me if she finds this to be the case, but like teaching you about the law, teaching their people that they bring in about the law is like the hardest thing. So I'm wondering if we could figure out or recommend or have ideas for an internship program where we put people in the larger election offices, let them learn about the law there, and then be open, and maybe these are students, maybe be open to then going to, be open for a job in another place. So they would have the law, they would have the background, and they would be more qualified maybe for Sarah to bring in, who might, you're really busy. You have more staff than some, I guess. And, right, but so, bringing someone on board. And I guess the other thing is that we should think about is like, and I didn't put this here. I guess, just trying to encourage training of some of the younger people.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, thoughts?
I think training is paramount, especially with all the new directors. And, I am president of the Directors Association, and one of the visions that we have is creating a certification or training program, that counties helped create for county election officials, because while we really appreciate all of the training we get from the State Board of Elections, a lot of the staff at the State Board of Elections has no idea what things are like on the ground in a county board of elections office. So I would love something like that. And I see you noticed here, are we encouraged to do the SERA training? Encouraged, yes, but that money has to come from somewhere. And a lot of counties are already underfunded. And so traveling across the country for training is not something that we really have the opportunity to do.
Okay, Sarah, I'm a jerk, but I feel like you're really passionate about this. Maybe you could
Little-
write bits about this. I'm sorry to,
A little bit. Yeah.
Though we're all busy,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
don't have a runoff to run.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it sounds like you could come up with some ideas.
Definitely. Definitely.
And I would love it if you would build in so that maybe we could elevate or, say
Mhm.
more about your,
Mhm.
the Directors Association's ideas about
Mhm.
North Carolina training or certification.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Sarah's gonna do
like-
career. Yay!
Mhm. Just career planning though, not the whole gamut, right?
Yeah, no, so, no,
Yeah.
definitely not. I think if we divide and conquer.
Mhm.
So this is where I was there. I have a couple of, so we were really interested in poll worker recruitment and training. So the evidence, I think we can get some from the Jason Roberts report that we have. I think we could get some evidence from local media reporting about, how hard it is. And I'm wondering if you guys don't, the other thing I figured I could do was go to the Election Assistance Commission, Election Day surveys stuff, and they have questions in there about, have you found it difficult to find enough poll workers? And I'm thinking that maybe I could, find some data about North Carolina, but I think that's a challenge for all of you, right? Shara, probably in Wake County, it's a little better. You guys are a bunch of
I think what can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. You know what we do, and it's really not effective? We have a little book of sheets of paper where people can, when they come into the registration table, they can sign up to work. That's not working very well. I think we need to do something else. I think we may need to go to retirement centers. We need to go to schools. And we need to actually recruit people to work. I just don't think it's very effective the way it's being done now, especially in White County.
Well, I think I shared in the last meeting that so I'm in Guilford County. And so at my precinct, the only way I was able to run it that day was I had two high school juniors in government class.
Mm.
So so we definitely need to elevate that program, right? Thank God for it. So maybe expand that would be a great idea. But I think this idea that you had, Martha, about, like, I feel like there needs to be a pathway, right? So these students, like, I don't know who tracks them, who knows where they are. I assume our county board of elections knows because they sent me the names. Those students then need to be moved into some sort of high college internship initiative program. Then, you know, whatever could happen, you know, to move them towards working full-time at this, or working, you know, with more intention around this. But I think there needs to be like a pathway idea. Because I mean, they were amazing. They really were, the two young men I had.
So starting it in high school with the being election workers, that's really well, okay, so here's what I'm thinking is that this might be a collaboration. Because
Yeah.
you had sent me some stuff on the internship or an internship program. Am I wrong? I couldn't
Yes.
find it today. I went to look for it.
Yeah, I'll have to look for it again. But yeah, I did see some
I'm
good
sorry that I couldn't
examples.
find it. Rachel, you don't happen to have it. I didn't do something smart like actually CC you in on that email, did
I do not have it, no.
I? Sorry. Yeah, well, we'll see what we can do. Okay, so what I'm hoping, Leslie, maybe you could write up some ideas about, well, first I want you to write up how your experience with the high school students.
Mhm.
And we should find out more about that program. Do you happen to know what it's called?
I don't. They just told me that their government teacher
Mhm.
told them about it, and so they signed up. That's all they told me. I don't even know the name of it.
So I can tell you that it's student election assistants, and I just put a link in the chat. We worked really hard to recruit. We probably had 30 something in the primary election work. And we really try to entice the students to do it because we sell it that you can put this on your college application, you can use this on a resume, you're going to earn money, you know, all of those sorts of things. Administratively for a county, it's a lot of work because the students aren't always as responsive to turning in the paperwork to get paid, or, you know, and actually going out to the schools to talk with them about this opportunity. So, you know, smaller county boards of elections, if there were a way to get like an organization to help bridge that gap between the board of elections and the high schools, that would be great.
You know, the community colleges might be willing to do it because they're already working with high schools to give them college credit. So what I'm saying is they may already be situated to help us with this.
Yeah, I was going to speak to that because just to Leslie's point and raising up the importance of a pipeline, because I was a student at Cape Fear Community College, and I was just recruited by basically my English teacher, shared the opportunity with me. And, you know, I happened to stay with it, if, you know, for over a decade and become a chief judge and all that, but nobody encouraged me to do that, you know, and then beyond that, I worked a lot with the league in Buncombe County and going into the high schools, and you know, and Sarah, what you're saying about the, you know, the extra work it takes to maintain them, but then also the level of interest, you know, it's not maybe as high as you would imagine. The turnout's always half or less of the interest, right? But especially those that do show up, I feel like somebody like, you know, if it's a student like me, we need to be creating an opportunity to keep them synced in and involved, you know. So I love that idea. And I don't have the most capacity, but I'd be happy to support in, you know, the work on thinking about what that would look like.
So we need to raise the elevate the high school program, or make sure that that's working well, or find an organization. So Leslie, can you write maybe a little about that? And then
Sure.
is there, let's see, is there, how are election boards working with universities? I guess this is so not Wake Tech. Well, so I know from judging the NC Engaged Democracy Contest that there are a lot of advisors that are really pushing their students to help with democracy. And Darlene, when you were, where did you Cape Fear? You said that, you know, a professor told you to, asked you to do it. Are there like, how many organized programs are there that colleges do to recruit poll workers?
I can't speak to that, but obviously my 39 member campuses join because they want to be civically engaged. So I have not intentionally worked through the offices of engagement and community service and service learning that our work taps to do anything for poll workers. A few years ago, we had an initiative with the national program that gave us funding to funnel down to the campuses to recruit the students. And then the students got, I think it was like $50 gift card, or anyway, the students got something to participate. Or no, that's not what it was. We couldn't give them an incentive. The campuses that recruited the most got an incentive. That's what we did. The campuses got an incentive to support their community engagement. So I could write up sort of about what that was and then suggest the internship. But either way, there are definitely, if we're intentional, there are definitely pathways into universities, even with my work, to do something. But again, we would need funding, right, to incentivize campuses to make this a priority.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they just turned in their all-in plans, right? Does anyone put in that? So it's like every campus, what is that organization called? I'm sorry, my head's tired. I can't think of it.
Yeah, well, all the awards programs, right, require different initiatives that show that they care about elections, but you know, very few put poll worker recruitment for sure. So I mean, yeah, I mean, we could incentivize it in some way.
So maybe one thing we suggest is that the state put in money for a grant for, well, yeah, they're gonna do that, aren't they? Well, let's maybe what we do when we deliberate is sort of brainstorm for ideas of how to fund something like that. And some way to keep it continuously moving.
One
So-
final thing with that would be, you know, just like most campuses, they already have the groups that are on their campuses working on election stuff, outreach stuff. And so if there was some sort of a toolkit, I feel like it's a capacity issue, right? Like the local boards, the state board's not kicking anything down to, you know, incentivize or instruct how to do that. The state boards and the parties don't really have the capacity, but you can imagine even if like a professor made an announcement in class and there was a QR code that went to a Google form and then the students could sign up. That's how you get names, right? And then it takes that, building that in, that follow up, that would go back to the either best fit probably would be the county BOE over the party, but making some sort of a toolkit and some sort of a flow like that with a flyer, Canva or whatever, you know, that can make a big difference on a campus. So just putting that out there as something that wouldn't require much funding, more so just a little bit of time from some folks. And then testing it out, you know, if you have a handful of receptive counties, 5 counties, see how it goes and get the metrics, you know, and then use that to try to get funding down the line.
I also
okay.
know Generation Next and 4-H both have that kids voting initiative. And I don't recall if poll worker recruitment is part of it, but I know for sure it's to try to get students to think more about voting. So I think they need to be a partner that we list in this.
Well, we should maybe check and see if they have, I bet they don't have poll worker stuff, but if they, I mean, it might be worth checking with them to find out if they do have anything like
I can check with Amy,
that.
the head of Generation Next or whatever it's called.
So these are great ideas. So the other thing is, remember that this afternoon, I don't know if you got this email or if you saw the email, but Catherine sent out this information about work study. That Issue One was the nonprofit that she worked with. And they released a really big report at the beginning of the year, at the end of last year, that talked about turnover among local election officials. Now, they were focusing on the west part of the country, but I think they're going to extend their report. But then Catherine said that they actually wrote the education department and asked them to make sure that students could get paid through works.
Martha, I think we lost you. I don't know if you can
did.
hear
I'm
us.
sorry about that. Yeah,
You're
my
frozen.
computer
Oh, there
decided
you
to
are.
die. So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're heading to the North Carolina Political Science Association meeting. And so we're in the mountains, and happy day. Yeah, well, anyway, my computer died. So, but you could look at the PowerPoint, that I sent. I found, oh, good. So I guess the question then is, so Leslie's going to write up the part of the report that'll be the proposed programs. Can anybody do like a media search and start the write-up about the lack of poll workers? Does anybody want to take that on? Okay, either someone didn't hear me or okay, well,
That one's not exciting anybody. But anyway, I can do it if nobody else wants it, I guess. Or we can assign it to somebody who's not here.
okay.
You know, I think we're missing a big opportunity with the retirement centers. Because a lot of these retirement centers now, it's 55 years and up. A lot of people retire early, and they have the available time. I think that's another area we really need to explore. In addition to the younger folks, I think we need to get them engaged.
Well,
But the
I
way we're
tell you
the
that,
way we're recruiting in Wake County, I think it leaves a lot to be desired.
well, okay, so you know what I'm going to suggest here?
To
You
explore
want to
the
write up a little bit to go in the poll worker recruitment about maybe some ideas about how we can recruit with retirement centers?
Okay, be glad to.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so I am looking for my, all right,
So Martha, it seems like once we get these sort of 3 sections about youth recruitment, college recruitment, and what Shira's suggesting, that really our overarching recommendation is recruitment across the lifetime, or lifespan. And I think that it's like one sort of block of like, how do we do it with K through 12? How do we do it in college? And then how can we think about, older adults? As opposed to it being like a really sort of broken up sort of thing. I think it needs to all sort of flow together.
yeah. Well, you know what I'm gonna say next then? That is a lovely way to bring this all together. Can you write that down right now before you forget? And put that at the top of your report when you do it? But the big thing is, there's always ideas about how to recruit poll workers, and then we do it, and then we're all super excited about it for a while, but it's not sustainable. I think the other thing that we need to be thinking about is how do we keep this kind of a program sustainable if we suggest it?
Can I ask a question? In Wake County, we're paid. Do all counties pay their election workers?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Well, that's it.
actually,
That
Sarah, I assume you guys pay. Well, Mecklenburg County
They
even
all
pays.
pay, but the pay varies. So it's not a consistent pay across counties. So you can say that you will be paid, but it's not going to be the same from one county to the next because each
Well-
county office gets to set that.
well, for the young kids, that may be incentive enough for them.
Well,
Also,
it's
if they get credit in their class for doing it as well.
We
Um,
coordinated, some of our high school students were able to use the hours that they worked election day as volunteer hours, even though they got paid for
Perfect.
like National Honor Society or other groups like that. Their advisors actually let them use it for credit for volunteer service.
Bingo. That's great.
is it
Like I said,
possible?
we need engagement on both ends of the age spectrum.
So what do you think about what about the middle-aged folks? So working with some of the biggest employers in North Carolina to try to get days off for people to work
Yep.
on like early voting. Can we suggest that as well?
Yes.
I don't know who would do that, but I sure would love us to do something to, a lot of these, it would be a great, I don't know, I think it would be like a nice corporate service thing, right? And I don't know why we don't try and tap into some of the bigger employers.
Or something we thought
should.
about, what about attorneys, how they get CLE credit for doing things?
I've
But I
wondered
think
about that.
The paperwork to create something like that was more than we were willing to take on. But if somebody's already done something like that, just switching it up.
Why don't I
Okay, so we
why
did-
don't I approach Wake County Board of Elections Wake County Bar Association
Yeah.
and I'll approach them and see we can do that. That's crossed my mind before because it's so legal based
Yeah.
that we should be getting CLE credit. That get a lot of attorneys out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so Shara's gonna ask the Wake County Bar Association about
Mhm.
CLA credit for poll workers.
Is there a similar requirement for paralegals? Is that another potential group?
I bet there is. Hey, how about realtors?
Okay, so why not? So
Yeah,
Shara,
their
let's
world
find-
just got rocked, I think, recently.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Well, I
So
think
Sarah, can you
a lot
find
of
out-
employers have those social responsibility mandates, right? Food Lion. I mean, we could go, yeah, because they sponsor our hunger and challenge for students. So I think the overarching recommendation is that we work with these corporate responsibility, social responsibility networks, whether it's sector-based, right? Law, legal, whatever. But I think that definitely needs to be another pathway. There are also volunteer centers in most communities and counties. Maybe we could put it out there, even though it's paid ultimately. But it's a way to tap into folks that already have that volunteer spirit. So I just think there's lots of networks that just need to be tapped into.
What about like the Rotary Club and the Lions Club and those organizations? Like a lot of those really have a mindset of helping the community. Maybe getting something to just filter down to the local chapters to encourage their members to sign up.
Your junior leagues require hours. That would be another thing you could tap into.
I'm sorry, who requires hours?
The junior leagues.
Oh yeah, junior leagues, okay.
So our categories are K through 12 schools, higher ed, corporate, civic groups, volunteer centers, was there any- retirement communities, right?
Okay, so Sheriff's
And-
pretty
and it-
right about the retirement communities.
And the
Um,
legal, the legal angle with attorneys, I'll do
the
that too.
legal angle.
And then I had one other group.
Okay, we got
Sorry,
what's
I
that?
had one other group to add to
Doctors?
the
They're
corporate.
so busy.
Well, actually, I was just thinking about who are the largest employers in most counties, and I just thought of the hospital association and hospitals. Probably not the doctors, but they have a lot of employees, and they're in many counties. I know there's a lot of consolidation going on right now, but still, I think they have a footprint across the state. Could be worth
Good point.
at least mentioning it to the North Carolina Hospital Association and see if they think their
that's-
members would be.
I hope you're writing all
Context
this
there,
down,
I can-
everybody, because I am having trouble getting all this written down. So I want to make sure we all have it in our notes. And then, okay, so let's see. So this is going to be beautiful, I guess. So when you're finished with your piece, so who's going to put it all together? The folder and all together? Me, or do you want to send it to Leslie? How about Leslie? So when you finish your piece, send it to Leslie. Is that okay, Leslie?
Sure, although I'm still finishing up the North Carolina Civic Health Index. So it'll be done in about a week.
Okay. Is there someone else that wants to put it all together? I got you. We're busy. I understand. Is there someone else who might be willing to put it all together? I guess the other option is that you could just send them all to me and I'll put them all together. But I'd love what you guys all wrote, what you have, the ideas. I'll tell you what, I'll volunteer to put it all together, but just send me everything you got on that. Okay, so new dates. Before the next meeting, by the next meeting? Is that possible?
That's like 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
3 weeks? Rachel, when is the next meeting?
Let me see. Thursday, April 11th.
Sorry, a truck just cut us off, a big truck. Thursday, April 11th, so that would be the due date. And then hopefully that'll give us something to like spend some time talking about. So the only thing that we don't have assigned out is the safety one.
What is the need for that exactly?
Okay, so first we need to put together the evidence. So we need to say like something like
That was with Tom Baker with Bridging Divides.
bridging divides information, Jason Roberts information, and then just a little bit about, you know, maybe some of the issues that local election workers have faced with their safety. So all of these different, if you look at my PowerPoint, all of these different organizations have little bits and pieces of policy recommendations. I have an idea. Why don't you each take one of those pieces, read it, and pull out the policy recommendations. And I'll write up the evidence. Anybody? No? Okay, you're all looking at me, or you didn't hear me maybe. Again?
When would I guess I'm confused about exactly what would need, if you would write the evidence. Two things, I guess. One is timeline and one is exactly what the task is.
So I think let me see. So what we have is like what the report's gonna look like. So let me see if I can find that on this computer, and I can tell you sort of what we see. Final reports, report template. So we have a report template that talks about, well, first off, the number, so there's some questions we can answer, but it says, you know, what specific topics did your committee study? Current practice in North Carolina. And what did your committee learn during the process? And then, so I think what we would write is something like, what percentage of local election officials report something having happened to them? It would be maybe whatever the bridging device, so like brief evidence on how election safety is a problem. I don't think this is like an essay. This is like a paragraph.
Mhm.
And then what I think that we need to do is come up with, so what did we learn? I mean, what's current practice in North Carolina? So the National Conference of State Legislatures actually has what every state is already doing. And we could, I don't think North Carolina is doing anything to protect election workers. Sarah? Sorry, you're the one
Yeah,
I'm
I
always
think,
gonna go.
well, I think a lot of it is filtering down information that comes from national organizations. I don't think
So-
there's really much happening directly in North Carolina.
We
So
didn't,
there's a bunch of like, well, these organizations in my PowerPoint have some different ideas about laws that we could encourage the state legislature to consider. And so we could, what I'm thinking, here's what I visualize, and I'm watching the time. We've got just a few more minutes. What I visualize is that we say, okay, here's a possibility, here's a possibility, here's a possibility, and some subset of those possibilities of things that we would do, we would decide, is there something here that we would encourage the state legislature to take up or to consider that other states have done to protect election workers? So if you go like some of these,
I'm on the bridging divides list and I see that stuff regularly. I think my main question at this point is timeline, just because of my personal capacity. I'm interested to help. But when are you looking to have this back?
well, I'm thinking that we would start, you know, we're going to start probably having sort of more community input in May and sort of some meetings. So I would hope we could do it by April 11th. So that, how does that fit with your schedule, Darlene? Could you put some of that together? It'd be nice if we could have it for our next meeting to deliberate about what we wanted to say, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I can see, my break is starting next week. I've got a few exams tomorrow, and then I'll look and kind of see and send something and see if it's going in the right direction. Okay.
That's fair. That's
and
fair.
then if it seems like a good fit and it's making sense, then I should be able to do that. But either
Okay,
way,
so
I can look into it next week. And so if there's anything you want to send me additionally, before then, feel free. Otherwise I'm gonna reference the PowerPoint and, use that as a kind of a guide to come up with something along the lines of what you're talking about.
So just so you know, Tom, Baker, Bridging Divide
Oh, I can't hear you. I don't know if that's
is
just
gonna
me.
speak.
Can other
No, it's
people hear
Can
breaking
you
me?
up.
guys hear me? Not or
Okay,
not?
it's breaking out pretty bad.
Okay, good. Woo. Can you hear me now? Verizon,
Partial.
can you hear me now?
Mhm.
Sorry,
Yeah.
guys. Can you hear me now?
yes.
So
Yes.
Tom Baker, look at the first page, the priorities. Tom Baker is going to speak to the entire commission in April. And so I think that's where we can put some of the evidence. So Jennifer and I asked Jennifer, should I schedule him to come to talk to our committee or the entire commission? And she thinks the entire commission. So he's gonna come and talk to the entire commission about political violence and like worries about North Carolina and the research that Princeton has done. And so I think that could be part of the evidence. So we're not going to have that by April 11th is really our next meeting. So yeah, we won't have that yet anyway. But we do, I mean, there is a little bit in Jason's work, I think, that we can put in there. And then, so yeah, I guess Darlene, bottom line is take a look at the stuff that I gave you here. Did you want to put together different possible policies? Or do you think that's just not gonna, you're not gonna have the capacity to do that?
I mean, I'm a public policy student, so it's in my realm. But I guess, yeah, I know we're coming up on the end of the time here, so I will reach out. But I think that I will be able to come up with something based on what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay, does everybody know what their jobs are? Everybody feel comfortable with their jobs? So
I needed to be reminded, what did I volunteer for? There was something nobody wanted.
you are gonna write up the bit. What was he gonna write up, guys, about poll workers?
I think that's what we were talking about, poll workers. There was
Or
something
was
like a
it the
report or
capacity? Rachel, can you remind us, or do you know what he volunteered for?
I would have to look back on the transcription to see that, but I can follow up.
Oh, it's a problem statement, but I didn't write down which one it was for. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so sorry. It's hard to take notes when you're writing in the car. But you're writing a problem statement, and I think it was poll workers. Or was it career planning? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll have Rachel get back to you, okay? Can
Yeah.
you please do that for me, Rachel?
Yeah, I'll follow up after this meeting.
Thank you so much.
And then Martha,
Okay.
for all of us, given everybody's busy and it's a short time, I was wondering, is it okay to not worry too much about well-formed prose and just
No,
have bullets?
no,
You know,
absolutely don't worry about that. Write down ideas, write
Yep.
down, you know, points. This doesn't have to be beautiful, though, Leslie. I really, really, really loved what you said about poll worker recruitment over the life course. However you said that was very artful. So I hope you wrote that down. That prose I want to keep. Please.
Across the lifespan.
All across the list. I thought that sounded really cool. Okay, now, is there anything else that so I guess we'll try and talk about some of these things and figure out if we've got what we want to say to the rest of the state when it's next meeting. Fair?
Keep right.
Okay. Well, I'm very happy with what we've accomplished this meeting, guys. Thank you so much. I do think these are some really important issues. So Darlene, I'll look forward to hearing from you, and thank you, Greg, Shara, Sarah, Leslie,
I think
and
we're,
Rachel.
I think we're
I
solving,
really-
I think we're solving problems.
I do too. I do too. I feel really good about this. All right, all. So I guess I will see you next month, and I look forward to seeing these ideas. All right. Thank you.
thanks. Bye.